my viewers, and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like, and feel free to share your comments on what you think about this video in the comment section down below. Now, in today's video, I want to welcome you once more to today's insightful discussion on the financial reality facing many Americans, as highlighted by this Mexican man in this video. Now, in this video, we take a look into the observations of this Mexican man who sheds light on a paradoxical dilemma. Despite seemingly higher incomes, many Americans find themselves financially strained due to the overwhelming burden of bills and expenses. Now, according to him, this is what he said, as I quote, "Americans are so broke, but they don't realize it, don't they? I think Americans do." Am I the only one detecting no lies in what he's saying though? Because there's some whole truth in there. Now, he even goes on to compare the cost of living in his country to America by saying that people make less money there, but the cost of living is also lower. Americans have a lot of money, but also have so much bills to settle. So what's the point of having a lot of money and not be able to keep any of it? Very good question there. But check out these videos as different people also share their opinions or thoughts on what they think about this. I will be right back.
Americans are so broke and they don't even realize it. I always get Americans tell me, oh, but people in Mexico only make $20 a day. You can get a full meal here for $2. The metro in Mexico City costs 5 pesos, which is like 25 cents. I can go to the market right now and buy 3 kilos of mangoes for like $2. Yeah, people make less money here, but the cost of living is also lower. Americans think that everywhere is like the US. Now, check this out. Let's say you live in the US and you make $3,500 a month after taxes. I'm being generous. Rent, $2,000. Car payment, $500. Car insurance, $200. Health insurance, $200. Phone bill, $100. Wi-Fi bill, $50. Light bill, $150. Water bill, $100. What's the point of making more money if you don't get to keep any of it? Who cares if you make $4,000 a month if you don't get to keep any of it? 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that includes half of six-figure earners. 80% of you guys are in debt and don't own anything, and half of you guys don't even have $500 in your savings account. But let's call other countries poor and let's call other people poor. Living paycheck to paycheck your whole life and being in debt your whole life should be considered poverty, but it's not. And I know this is going to hurt a lot of Americans, but it's the truth. The US system wants you to spend every waking moment of your life working and paying into a system that will never benefit you. Slaving away your whole life just to be retired for a measly 10 years. At least here in Mexico, we own our things, we own our houses, we own our cars, we're not in debt. But anyways, that's a story for another day. Let me know what you guys think.
I think it's the only thing we realize. I think it's the only thing we think about all day, every day, as we go to work, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the 40 years. I think they're pushing retirement to 70, so it's going to be about 50 years now. It's the only thing we realize, bro. It's the only thing. I can't stop thinking about anything but money. It's a sickness. I'd rather have schizophrenia. And even then, the voices in my head are probably going to be different influencers telling me how to build multiple passive income streams online.
Sir, we absolutely realize it. I don't know where he got that from. We know.
I'm not sure what they make in Mexico, but here in Spain, the average salary is about $35,000 a year. And let me tell you that the people here in Spain have a far better quality of life than Americans ever will. You see, the cost of living here in Spain is on par with the average salary, whereas in America, that is not the case. The cost of living far exceeds the average salary in America, and therein lies the problem. Take me, for example. I make 6 figures. Growing up, 6 figures was kind of always a threshold, like you've made it once you've made 6 figures. But unfortunately, because of inflation and just capitalism, my 6 figures don't go far at all. Therefore, Americans like myself end up living off of credit, which is translation broke. You're spending money that you don't actually have and that you're just going to end up owing. Anyways, I agree with this point. Living off of credit is poverty, and Americans don't even realize how poor they actually are.
Where's the lie? There's no lies told there. He's telling the absolute truth. I often wonder, like, are people paying attention, or are they so much in survival mode that they're just not paying attention? They're going from one job to another. A lot of people are having to do these odd jobs part-time. If you have a corporate job, you go into work and you listen into these billionaires talk about how many billions of dollars they made in a quarter and how it simply isn't enough. It's never enough. The problem is it's corporate greed, and greed has taken over the United States. They want us to work until we're 70. There's no quality of life. There's no mental health. Nobody considers your mental health. It's go, 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 go. There's no downtime. When you get paid, say you clear, say you bring home $7,000. By the time you pay your mortgage, buy food, you pay life insurance, car insurance, your water bill, your electrical bill, your cell phone bill. I mean, these are just the bare minimums. By the time you pay all that, you have nothing left. You may have a little bit left to go out to have dinner or something. It's really, really bad, and it's gotten bad over the last few months. I remember in 2019, I quit my job. I was dealing with this man, and it was no way of trying to convince people that this guy was treating me a certain way. I just quit. I was like, I don't have time for power structure. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of begging. I'm sick of asking them to give me a promotion when I've been doing a particular job for over 20 years. I'm just sick of it. And I just said I didn't want to do it anymore, and I left. At that time, I had a good amount of money in the bank, probably like 8 months of my total household bills saved. This was in October. I lived off my savings for a few months, and I was just like, I'm just going to take a break. I've been working since I was 16. Then the pandemic it hit in China really bad. And my girlfriend was like, you need to find a job. It's coming to America. So I started scrambling, finally found a job. And right when the pandemic when they closed everything down in the US, I was like, God, thank you. So I found a job. But by that time, I had spent probably like 6 months of my savings. I have not been able to save since then. I always had a nest egg. Everything is so high, you cannot save any money now. I recently got married. Even with the combined incomes, we have combined bills now, and it's hard to save. We're literally trying to get our foundation together so that we can make some money moves. It is serious out here, and we make good money. So I can only imagine people that are not making not making a lot of money. I went through the drive-through at McDonald's to get a Coke the other day, and I saw that they are hiring starting at $15 an hour, which is really, really good. Listen, corporations, we wanted you to pay your workers more money, but we did not want you to make a Big Mac meal $15. We wanted you to say, okay, let me share my wealth. We wanted you to share the wealth, not be greedy. As these corporations are greedy as hell. There's no quality of life. I got off work yesterday. It was a very warm day here in Michigan. I was like, I want to ride my bike. I was so tired mentally after dealing with corporate America for 9 hours. But I pushed myself to get on my bike and ride. There's no quality of life. They're working us like you don't get a chance to spend time with your family or friends. You're just constantly in survival mode. And these politicians are bought and paid for by these corporations. I think that the whole government system needs to be dismantled. There should be some rules in place. In order to run for any seat in Congress or the House, you cannot own a business, because these people are business owners and they're getting into Congress and and they're making laws to benefit their companies. That's a conflict of interest. You cannot do any investments on Wall Street. You cannot do that because you have inside information that will make you rich. Okay. And you cannot take money from corporations. The only people you can take money from is everyday working people, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to have people to get in office that are not bought and paid for by these corporations and putting in laws that benefit
reality that my definition of poor is very different than the Americans' definition of poor or the Europeans.
So basically, the situation of poverty in the United States is, I think, much worse than a lot of outsiders actually know about, because they have this view of American normal, but that is based mainly on television shows and films. And we laugh at how characters are able to afford the like manner of their lifestyle of living or whatever all the time. Like, it's a massive joke that like they could afford to live in Manhattan in Friends and stuff like that. Currently, we know that about 60% of Americans are about one $400 emergency away from complete bankruptcy, which is not that big of an emergency in the United States. That might be like a couple of car pieces suddenly giving out. One medical emergency and you are basically homeless. The homelessness population in the United States is very, very large and actively growing. There are many, many Americans who are literally living on the street, no accommodations. There's very little assistance available from the government, especially in places like Los Angeles, because they are overloaded with people who need help and nowhere to put them. In terms of like what I would consider poor as an American, people who can't afford to get health care or dental care as they need it if there's an emergency, and who struggle to afford to feed themselves some sort of nutritious food. You can usually get like rice or noodles very cheap in the United States, although much less cheaply than you used to be able to. But you will eventually, probably suffer from like scurvy and other illnesses if you're just eating that. So, yeah, and that does happen sometimes in the United States. Sometimes people aren't homeless, but they are effectively living in a shack with maybe electricity or water, maybe not. Maybe the water they have isn't clean. They don't have access to clean water anyway. So it's not really like they have to boil everything every time they get water, I've heard of families who their water's just been cut off and their power's just been cut off. So they have to steal water from neighbors, like water hoses, and just hope that it kind of goes unnoticed, and then like boil things. And it's really, really hard. It's not really living. There are Americans who are not in terrible housing. Let's say they're in a decent apartment, but they have to work 80 hours a week in order to keep a roof over their head and to keep food on the table. And they're not able to have free time to spend time with family or friends. They don't travel at all, let alone, not just within the United States, but like at all. They have no time off, because if they stopped working even for a single week, they would be on the street. And then there are the people who are just starving. And there are many of them, some of them children. There are many Americans who are starving. And then there are the people who aren't Americans, but they're like, live in America because they're undocumented and they don't have access to any of the social programs that theoretically should be available to everybody. Although what many people don't understand is that depending on what state you're in, you might not actually have access to any of those like federal benefits, because the federal government allows the states to decide who gets the benefits and under what circumstances, how to allocate the funds that they are given. So, for example, in Texas, if you live in Texas, you cannot get government subsidized healthcare in Texas unless you are a single parent or disabled. Some states have more generous social programs, but you have to have been living in that state. Like California, for example, if you wanted to get like Medi-Cal, you need to either be like a student or you need to have been like living in California for so long to get certain things. So yeah, it's not like if you're homeless, for example, and you just come to California and there's no record of you living there for 5 years or whatever the limit is, then like it doesn't matter that you've been there. Like you have to have had record that you were living there and stuff. The issue with like American society is that there are a lot of very, very poor people, and there are a few very, very, very unthinkably rich people that mess up the curve. So the idea that we're all
kind of living a generic middle class lifestyle in America is just not the case. And the group for whom that is not the case is growing every day. And a lot of the people that are entering that group for the first time in their lives are boomers. And that is going to probably have some interesting social impacts. So yeah, I think when we're talking about American poverty, we need to take into account that our stereotypes of what that looks like are probably very, very far from the truth.
This is so true, and it's not even about the money. Americans are broke in culture, in friendship, in loyalty, in a lot of things. And the worst part is you see comments on this guy's video saying, so why don't they just move back? So why are they all coming to America? They're coming to America to make American dollars and send it back home. They're not trying to stay here. Like, I don't know if you guys know that. I mean, my best friend's Mexican, and I get a little more into like the Mexican culture and understand what's happening. They work here not to stay here. They work here to send money back home to their families so that they could live even better. And it is true that food in Mexico is super cheap. I went to Mexico, my goodness. Tacos now in America, I just went to a taco store. It was amazing, but Tacos Ramirez or Los Tacos, the best tacos in New York City, bro, those tacos are like $5 each. And each as in like one. They used to be $1.75. In taco, you could get like 10 tacos for like $2 or $3. It's bad. Like, and those are the best tacos you'll ever have. Now, besides that, American culture is broken. It's not the same anymore. This generation of Americans, the American dream is to them. For us, it still is going because we're taught differently. But Americans now, there's no such thing as friendship. There's no such thing as loyalty. It's completely different now. There's no such thing as going out just to go hang out at not even a bar. Like, they have cafes in, Europe where you could drink red wine. It's not even a bar. You just have a cup of red wine with cookies or something, and you just stay there talking. Not in a bar environment where you're going to get hit on, but you're with your friends just hanging out and talking about life. Cafes there close at 7, even 10, because people are out there talking. Here in New York, cafes close so early. Like, I'm talking about like a mom and pop shop type of cafe. Majority of them close at like 4 or 5 o'clock. And no one is out after there are people out. When I talk, don't make it like literal. But there's not as much people out to just hang out, Besides even culture, America is not as, I go travel all the time. And different countries have such great scenery. Like, people do stuff like hiking, There are people that hike in America, but there's so many more in like Europe that are going to go hike, spend time with their dogs, do like an overnight trip where they're making coffee like in the mountains in a tent. And people don't see this. America is a great country, and I'm thankful for everything I have gotten in America. But I think it's also because the more I explore, the more I realize, and I am more grateful for other countries. America's all I know. So for me to not be grateful for America would be very horrible of me. But as you grow up and you explore and you see different cultures, there's just so much more out there. And it is normal, I feel like, that if you're accustomed to something different is more pleasing to you simply because it's different. So it could be why I like other countries more, or it's just the fact that I am growing up. But America's not all that. And you are right and free to say, so why don't you move? And I've always said this. I literally was about to move with my ex-girlfriend, but we broke up. So I do have the right to say that America's not the greatest country anymore. It used to be, I'd say. But now with the way things are going, I don't think it is. And I do have the right to say it because I will be the first one to move. There are people in America that hate America and they still choose not to move. So those people could be quiet. But there are other beautiful countries out there with way better benefits now compared to what America has to offer, because America does not have much to offer anymore with the way inflation is, the way the presidency is, the way the politics is, the way that the crime is. Even El Salvador probably has less crime now than America. So, you know, America has changed, and it's horrible because this was such a great country before, and it has completely changed under democratic policies. It is horrible.
Now, let's not even beat around the bush. Let's recognize the undeniable truth behind his observations. Indeed, the statistics paint a sobering picture of the financial landscape in America. Despite boasting higher average incomes compared to many countries, the cost of living in the United States has surged dramatically in recent years. Now, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, essential expenses such as housing, healthcare, and education have outpaced income growth, placing an unprecedented strain on household budgets. Consider, for instance, the housing market, where skyrocketing prices have rendered home ownership an elusive dream for many aspiring Americans. The National Association of Realtors reports a staggering increase in median home prices, far outstripping wage growth and exacerbating the affordability crisis across the nation. Moreover, healthcare costs in the U.S. remain exorbitantly high despite incremental efforts to reform the system. A study by the Kaiser Family Foundation reveals that the average annual premium for employer-sponsored health coverage has more than doubled over the past 2 decades, placing an immense financial burden on families and individuals alike. Education, too, presents a formidable financial barrier for millions of Americans, with college tuition rates soaring unabated. According to the College Board, the average cost of tuition and fees at public 4-year institutions has surged by over 200% since the early 2000s, far surpassing the rate of inflation and placing undue strain on students and families grappling with student loan debt. In light of these stark realities, this month's poignant question resonates deeply. What is the true value of wealth if it's perpetually consumed by the relentless onslaught of bills and expenses? It's a sobering reminder that financial security remains an elusive goal for far too many Americans, underscoring the urgent need for systemic change and re-evaluation of societal priorities. Now, despite economic growth and rising productivity, real wages for the majority of American workers have stagnated over the past few decades. Adjusted for inflation, median household income has remained relatively flat since the 1970s, making it increasingly difficult for families to keep up with rising costs. American households carry significant debt burdens, including mortgages, credit card debt, student loans, and auto loans. According to the Federal Reserve, total household debt reached a record high in recent years, surpassing $14 trillion. High debt levels not only strain monthly budgets with interest payments, but also limit financial flexibility and long-term savings. Healthcare costs in the U.S. are among the highest in the world, driven by factors such as the complexity of the healthcare system, administrative overhead, and the rising cost of medical treatments and prescription drugs. Even individuals with healthcare insurance often face steep deductibles, co-payments, and out-of-pocket expenses, leading to financial hardship, especially in the event of unexpected medical emergencies. Across many metropolitan areas, housing affordability has become a pressing issue. Rapid population growth, limited housing supply, and speculative investment have driven up home prices and rents, making it increasingly challenging for individuals and families, particularly those with lower incomes, to secure stable and affordable housing. The gap between the wealthiest Americans and the rest of the population continues to widen. Wealth and income inequality contribute to disparities in access to education, healthcare, housing, and economic opportunities, perpetuating cycles of poverty and financial insecurity for millions of Americans. While overall inflation rates have remained relatively modest in recent years, certain essential expenses have experienced much higher rates of inflation. For example, the cost of prescription drugs, child care, and higher education has risen significantly faster than general inflation, further squeezing household budgets. Now, it's evident that the notion of high incomes often doesn't equate to financial security or wealth accumulation. Despite seemingly lucrative paychecks, many Americans find themselves trapped in a cycle of paycheck to paycheck living, struggling to make ends meet amidst soaring rental rates and a myriad of other financial obligations. One of the most significant contributors to this predicament is the exorbitant cost of housing, particularly in urban centers where job opportunities are abundant. Rental rates have skyrocketed in recent years, outpacing income growth and placing a significant strain on household budgets. Now, as a result, even individuals with respectable salaries may find themselves devoting a sizable portion of their income towards rent, leaving little room for savings or discretionary spending. Now, this stands in stark contrast to cultural norms in other parts of the world, where home ownership is often viewed as a cornerstone of financial stability and prosperity. In many cultures, owning land or a home is considered a symbol of success and security, providing individuals and families with a tangible asset that can appreciate in value over time. In contrast, renting is often seen as a temporary arrangement with little long-term benefit beyond providing shelter. The perception of wealth and poverty can vary significantly depending on one's cultural and socioeconomic context. While Americans may boast higher average incomes compared to many countries, the prevalence of renting rather than home ownership can sometimes lead to a skewed understanding of financial well-being. In some cultures, individuals who own land or property, regardless of their income level, are often viewed as affluent and successful, while those who rent may be perceived as struggling or disadvantaged, regardless of their actual financial situation. Now, this highlights the importance of considering cultural and societal norms when evaluating financial security and prosperity. While high incomes may provide a certain level of comfort and stability, true wealth often lies in the ownership of assets such as land or property, which can provide long-term financial security and stability. As such, efforts to address the housing affordability crisis and promote home ownership opportunities for all Americans are essential steps towards fostering greater financial inclusion and prosperity for individuals and families across the nation. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what you have to say, share your thoughts, comments, contributions in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.